Hello there, and welcome to the Dreamy Scientist, where curiosity gets cozy and science takes the scenic route to slumber. Tonight's gentle journey is all about a question that sparkles in the night sky and dances across our imagination. Why do stars twinkle only at night? We've all looked up and wondered why those distant points of light seem to shimmer like tiny candles, flickering just out of reach. Is it something in the stars themselves, or is the secret hiding closer to home, perhaps in the air that wraps around our world? But before we unravel the shimmering secrets of the stars, I'd love to know, where in the world are you watching from, and is the sky dark where you are? Fitting, isn't it? A video about stars at night, and here we are gathered under our own personal patch of sky, each of us wrapped in the hush of our own evening. If you find this voyage soothing, intriguing, or just a gentle way to end your day, I'd be ever so grateful if you gave the video a like and maybe subscribed. It helps this little corner of calm reach others who might need a peaceful pause too. Now, I do hope this isn't so fascinating that it keeps you wide-eyed. But if it does, well, at least you'll have learned a little about the heavens before you drift off. So settle in, slow your thoughts, and let's begin. You settle beneath the quilt of evening just as pink turns to pewter beyond the window frame, and the room exhales the last warmth it borrowed from the day. Shadows lengthen in leisurely swirls across the ceiling, then fuse into a single quiet dusk that feels as soft as breath on skin. Outside, the trees hush their leaves, birds tuck beaks beneath wings, and the hum of distant traffic evens into a low, unhurried drone, background noise that soon dissolves into something both smaller and larger than itself. In that dissolving, you sense the first invitation. Listen. Listen not with ears alone, but with the stretch of your chest, the drift of your eyelids, the slow loosening of every muscle that once held itself at attention beneath the noon sun. Each heartbeat lengthens, turning from marching drum to gentle oarstroke on a mirror-still lake, and by the third or fourth stroke you are already drifting into the night's inner cove. There, at the shoreline between wakefulness and dream, the sky unfurls like velvet rolled from a jeweller's pouch. One by one, quiet sparks pin themselves to that fabric, never rushing, never colliding, as though a cosmic usher decides the timing for every entrance. You remember seeing this ritual once before, a childhood camping trip perhaps, when supper smoke rose toward the firmament, and you, half hypnotized by flame, noticed the first star arriving. You waited for another, then another, and each new pinprick made the growing dark feel suddenly dear, as if the universe were wrapping you in a shawl speckled with living embers. Tonight the shawl returns, fitting broader shoulders yet stirring the same hushed gladness. Your ribcage expands as though it too is trying to match the night's diameter. Somewhere in that expanding lies a question. Why do they shine only now? You know intellectually that the stars do not die at sunrise and resurrect at dusk, yet the feeling is otherwise. Daylight bullies subtle light from the stage, and so the actors retreat, waiting until the house is dark enough for whispers to carry. You mull this theatrical metaphor while inhaling the cool of evening air. Cool because, without the sun to stir chaotic plumes, the lower atmosphere settles into steady laminar layers that cradle your lungs with their moderated chill. Those layers, though invisible, begin already to shape the very points you are admiring. They are the unseen waves on which starlight will rock and rock again, before it finds the harbour of your eyes. A blink, your lashes create their own transitory night, and in that miniature eclipse you notice the timid beginnings of a flicker. The bright blue-white gem near the zenith lunges a shade brighter, slips back, pulses again. A honey-coloured spark lower in the east seems to waver left and right, like a candle held to the wind. You might think the stars themselves are fluttering. After all, when a candle trembles in a draught, its flame is the restless agent. But starlight is older than memory and steadier than stone. The tremor you witness originates here, only arm lengths above your head, in restless pockets of air that dance the same way heat shimmers above summer asphalt. By day you call that shimmer mirage. By night you call it twinkle. Science calls it scintillation, but tonight, in this rhythmic hush, the syllables of textbook language would clatter too loudly against the heart of the sky, so we keep to softer nouns. Imagine for a moment the starlight's pilgrimage. Thousands of years, millions for some stars, sped by at the one true speed the universe allows. The beam does not fray, does not tire. Neither nebula nor interstellar dust significantly widens its pencil-thin path, and so the ray remains an unwavering promise streaking through a darkness so empty, even the word void feels crowded. Then, a scant 200 kilometers above your quiet rooftop, the beam enters the atmosphere and everything changes. Gone is the crystalline emptiness. Here molecules jostle like dancers at a midsummer festival. Some parcels of air are warmer, lighter, rising. Others cool, sink. Each parcel possesses a slightly different refractive index, meaning each parcel bends light by a slightly altered measure. The ray, formerly true as arrow flight, now follows a frantic stair-step path, zigzagging through this invisible patchwork of shifting lenses. The result is a stutter in brightness, a shimmy in apparent position. Twinkle, twinkle, little star, as the nursery rhyme so faithfully records. While the ray mutates, your pupils widen like tidal pools opening under receding surf. Rod cells in the retina rouse from daylight dormancy, aligning themselves like soldiers at roll call. With each additional photon captured, a tiny current passes along optic nerve to visual cortex, where incoming data meets poetic inference. You do not merely see the star, you feel its tremor as a kind of throat tickle in the psyche, a miniature gasp of wonder that stirs a memory, summons a wish, paints a secret. The experience is half physics, half autobiography. The boundary blurs just as the star blurs while it dances. Planets, you notice, remain almost stoic, lamps instead of candles. Their steadiness is no riddle. Although unimaginably distant in pedestrian terms, they still sit dozens or hundreds of times nearer than the stars beyond them, and so they appear to your eye as minuscule disks rather than mathematical points. The disk's breadth averages the random jostlings of refracted light. What one edge of Venus loses, the opposite edge gains, and the overall glow stays level. In that difference, disk versus point, lies a pocket guide to celestial identification that sailors once trusted during cloud-blurred nights at sea. Sailors, you taste the salt in that thought, even in this inland bedroom. For those who earned their keep by harnessing wind, sparkling stars were compass and clock, sometimes comfort, sometimes torment. On clear nights, the predictable arc of constellations confirmed latitude, season, hope. On hazy nights, the embers flickered madly, suggesting storms or dangerous heat lightning beyond the horizon. You imagine a lone deckhand in the age of oak hulls leaning against a moon-washed rail, watching the same capricious glints that now soothe you towards sleep. The kinship is instant. Centuries collapsed into a single shared inhale. Wind brushes your siding. Tree branches trade secrets in an alphabet of rustle. With each sibilant exchange, the low atmosphere stirs, altering temperature slices only meters thick. It is enough. Lying still, you feel the sky's choreography shift. One star dims half a heartbeat longer, another brightens twice in quick succession. A casual observer might never notice, but your perception is tuned, your curiosity lit like a taper that refuses to gutter. Inside that curiosity, more questions spawn. How far up does this turbulence stretch? At what altitude do sheer currents fade into near-perfect calm? The answers compose a vertical map. Troposphere, tropopause, stratosphere. All stacked like invisible comforters above your bed. You promise yourself you will climb them soon, at least in thought. Yet climbing requires strength, and night trades strength for gentleness. Your limbs grow pleasantly heavy, marsh reeds weighted by dew, and your breathing elongates to match the slow wing beats of moths that now orbit the porch lamp. Even your thoughts slacken into syrupy ribbons, looping the same quiet marvels again and again, because repetition is nature's lullaby. They twinkle, the air bends, the light wanders, you watch, you wonder. Round and round the refrain drifts until meaning diffuses into sensation. Still, beneath that drowsy resonance, intellect keeps one eye partially open. You recall reading that astronomers place observatories on high deserts or lonely volcanic summits precisely to escape the atmosphere's most capricious tears. Even then, they wage war against the twinkle with adaptive optics, flexible mirrors that twitch hundreds of times per second, undoing in real time what turbulence tries to do. The same phenomenon lulling you to sleep is, for them, an enemy to be tamed. There is something beautiful in that duality, a single fact of nature offering solace to the dreamer and challenge to the scientist, each pursuing different definitions of clarity. And what of clarity in the city? A passing memory, late commute home, craning from a bus window, seeing only 3 weary stars punching through sodium orange glare, floats up, then subsides. Light pollution is another kind of veil, this one woven by human hands. Yet even in urban haze, a bright star can wink. Proof that a beam of ancient radiance has threaded its way past amber street lamps, mirrored facades, television aerials, and the restless churn of air conditioner exhaust to meet the simple lens of your cornea. A pilgrimage concluded, a handshake across epochs. Corneas glisten, eyelids droop, the handshake drifts from firm to lingering to featherlight. Hovering at the edge of dreaming, you feel the night grow vaster, as though your mattress has slipped anchor and begun silent voyage across a dark ocean whose waves are only the rise and fall of your chest. The stars overhead keep station, bright buoys marking a route no chartered vessel has fully traced. Somewhere along that route a faint meteor flares, gold turning to emerald, turning to ash in under a second. You catch the flash, yet at this threshold between worlds you accept it without surprise. Everything here is gift. There is, however, one more gift tonight, the promise of explanation both fuller and gentler than any given so far. You can sense it coiling like smoke just beyond conscious reach. A tale of convection cells, of temperature inversions stacking like glass plates, of humidity pockets refracting red light differently than blue. The story has weight and shape. You could almost lift it. But to lift requires waking muscles, and those muscles rest. So you let the story wait. You allow it to hover in the wings while the first curtain of sleep drifts down, sheer enough that distant glimmers still filter through the fabric. Your last lucid breath tastes of cool starlight and the faint resin of night blossoming pine. On exhale, you feel yourself plunge one more degree into the mattress, as though gravity has increased its persuasion by a whisper. The twinkle persists, patient, indefatigable, stroking your closing eyes with gentle flashes, and somewhere just above the rooftop a fresh ripple of warm air rises from the cooling shingles, tilting the beam from a star you have not yet noticed, bending its centuries-old light one final time before it greets the darkened mirror of your pupil. That light is arriving now, altering even as you slip beyond the reach of words, ready to carry you onward when the next chapter stirs you to climb higher, through ever subtler layers, toward the calm above the trembling sky. You drift, but do not fall, not yet. You linger just below waking, where the world is soft-edged and edged in silver, and even time seems to breathe slower. That last beam of starlight, bent and shimmering, still hovers behind your closed eyes. You feel it, not like a flash or a shape, but as a kind of presence, a quiet visitor pressing no urgency upon you. And yet something inside you reaches upward, curious. The journey continues. You begin to rise, upward, past the shingles now cooling from the day's sunlight, past the whisper-thin outlines of sleeping leaves. Your awareness floats like a bubble into the air itself, and here the familiar becomes strange. This space you live in, breathe through, and rarely see is not empty. It is layered, pulsing, in constant conversation with itself. You're moving through the troposphere, the lowest stretch of sky, where nearly all the weather happens, and where the air behaves not as stillness, but as shift and fabric. Imagine silk scarves tumbling together in a stream, some warm and buoyant, some cool and dense. This is the air above your home. This is the stage on which the stars must perform their flickering ballet. At first, the motion seems random, like a dream without narrative. One pocket of air swells with leftover heat from the ground below. It lifts, lazy and confident. Another, touched by a cooling breeze, descends like a tired sigh. You pass between them, these rising and falling pieces of atmosphere, and you begin to feel their complexity. They aren't just moving, they are bending light, like lenses made not of glass but of temperature. Each shift in density nudges the path of starlight. Each subtle difference in moisture, pressure, or thermal energy creates a tiny curve in its journey. And the sky, calm to your eye, is actually trembling. Here, you learn that air has structure. Not walls or columns, but gradients and flows, invisible rivers always reshaping themselves. One moment, a warm plume might lift straight upward. The next it curls sideways like a cat stretching in its sleep. These plumes are born from the ground's uneven warmth. An asphalt road, a shaded patch of soil, a rooftop still holding the sun's goodbye. Everything below the sky contributes to its texture. You can imagine it now, starlight entering this sea of movement, straight as a silent arrow, and then flickering as the air bends it slightly over and over again before it finally reaches your eye. The atmosphere, then, is not simply something the light passes through. It is something that touches it, reshapes it, dances with it. And the dance is never still. Even on a windless night, even when the branches outside are completely unmoving, there is motion above you. The air churns in layers, and these layers have personalities. Lower down, close to the rooftops, the motion is more chaotic. This is where heat from roads and buildings and chimneys bubbles upward like invisible breath. Higher up, the flow grows smoother, calmer, but it still shifts, still bends, still influences the starlight, turning its arrival into a flicker. You begin to think of the atmosphere not as something outside you, but as something shared, a blanket drawn loosely over the earth, stitched with currents and curls, and you are part of it. Every breath you take has passed through trees, oceans, lungs of strangers. Every molecule of oxygen was once part of a gust above a mountain, a jet stream, a distant typhoon. In that sense, the stars are not simply distant. They are filtered through the breath of Earth before they ever meet your gaze. A question drifts across your mind like a feather. Why do the stars flicker more when they are low in the sky? It's something you've seen but never named. When a star hovers near the horizon, just above the distant line of rooftops or forest, it seems to shimmer with a frantic energy, flashing red, then white, then blue, as though it can't settle on a voice. But the same star, once overhead, becomes more stable, and now, from this quiet, drifting place within the sky, the answer becomes clear. Light from a low star must pass through more atmosphere, more of these layered, shifting pockets of air. The slanting path stretches the journey, making it more turbulent, more vulnerable to interruption. It's like looking through a longer stretch of water, where ripples are more numerous, the distortions more dramatic. High overhead, the path is shorter, straighter. The air is thinner, the flickering gentler. And so, the stars closest to the top of your sky shimmer less, like elders watching over younger, wilder cousins dancing nearer the horizon. As you float gently higher in this imagined ascent, you reach a place where the turbulence quiets. The air here is cold, dry, and steady, thinner than you can breathe, yet thick enough to matter. This is the zone that high-altitude observatories seek out. Here, the stars can whisper more clearly, their light less broken, less bent. And yet, even here, the flicker does not vanish. It softens like a heartbeat in rest. Astronomers call this seeing, a word not for the act of looking, but for the clarity of what can be seen. On some nights, the atmosphere steadies and stars appear as they truly are, still, sharp, distinct. On other nights, the air is restless, and even the finest telescope must surrender to the whims of the sky. And you realize slowly that the very thing making stars beautiful to your naked eye, this twinkle, this shimmer, is the same thing that frustrates those who try to measure them precisely. It's the same air, the same dance. For you, it's comfort. For them, it's noise. But neither is wrong. The stars twinkle because they must travel through something alive, something moving, something in conversation with itself. The atmosphere is not a flaw in the system. It is part of the system. It makes the night feel near, not far. It gives you a way to feel the stars with more than intellect, with emotion, with awe. The stars, still high above, continue their glimmering in quiet patience. You imagine the journey of one photon, just one, that left a star before cities rose, before stories were written down. It travelled without pause until it reached the edge of Earth's atmosphere, then twisted, curved, dodged its way through ribbons of air until it entered your room, kissed your eye, and flickered. You're not just watching the sky, you are meeting it, where light and air and thought intersect. And just as your body settles deeper into sleep, your awareness keeps rising, drawn upward, weightless. You sense there's more still above this layer, above the subtle trembles and slow currents. Where does this blanket end? Where does Earth's breath finally let go? The edge of the atmosphere is not a line, but a fading, where air becomes thinner than whisper, and stars stop flickering, and space begins to speak in silence. And so you rise, still floating, still feather-light, drifting toward that place where the atmosphere ends not in a wall, but in a gentle thinning. The currents have slowed. The air, once alive with movement and temperature, becomes still, quiet, and almost not air at all. You pass through this edge with barely a ripple, and as you do, the trembling ceases. The stars above no longer flicker. They glow with the steady fire of ancient lanterns, their messages now clear, unbent, uninterrupted. It is here at the lip of space that you begin to feel the light itself, not as brightness alone, but as a kind of time made visible. You reach out with your thoughts, tracing the beam of light back through the sky, beyond the curves of air out into the void. Imagine it. One single thread of light, one photon, born in the furious heart of distant star. There, in the molten chaos of nuclear fusion, hydrogen atoms smash together to create helium, and in that merging, energy spilled outward like breath from a giant's lungs. Some of that energy took the form of light, and one piece of it, one glimmer, set off on a journey, not just across distance, but across years, centuries, millennia. That photon, now touching the edge of your dreaming mind, left its home long before your home ever was. You float beside it now, tracing its path through the emptiness between stars. Out here, there is no air, no wind, no sound. The light travels unchallenged, unbent, unhurried, but also never resting. There is no resistance, but also no refuge. It does not waver, it does not choose, it simply moves. At the universe's one absolute speed, the speed of light itself. Not the fastest speed, the only speed, a cosmic constant, baked into the rules that govern every atom, every breath, every flicker. To grasp this is to understand light not just as glow, but as law. It is the standard by which all movement measures itself. No matter the observer, no matter the motion, light speed remains unchanged, roughly 299,792 kilometers per second. You repeat the number silently, not to memorize it, but to feel its rhythm, its inevitability. At that speed, light from the moon takes just over 1 second to reach Earth. From the sun, just over 8 minutes. But the stars you see twinkling above you now, their light has travelled far longer. Some beams began their journey when woolly mammoths still roamed. Others began when humans had not yet carved symbols into stone. The stars are not just distant in space. They are distant in time. You never see a star as it is, only as it was. Even the nearest stars show you their yesterdays. The further you look, the deeper into history you peer. It's as if the universe wrote a diary in light, and only now are you turning the pages. This means that starlight is not merely a view, but a memory, a message, a relic carried across vastness for your eyes alone. And what a fragile message it is. Each photon begins in chaos, hurled outward from nuclear fire, then jostled, scattered, absorbed, re-emitted, bounced around like a thought in a busy mind. It may take thousands of years for that light to fight its way to the surface of its own star. But once it escapes into space, the journey becomes simple, straight, untouched, a single, unwavering line through the dark. You might imagine space as a still sea, but it is not truly still. It expands. Quietly, like bread rising in the oven, space itself stretches, and as it stretches, the light stretches too. Its wavelength lengthens, its color shifts, its energy cools. This is redshift, the soft aging of a photon, not in sorrow but in distance. The universe is not static, it is moving outward in all directions, so the light you see has not only travelled, it has changed. What left a star as blue may arrive at your eyes as amber. What began as brilliance arrives as hush. You're witnessing the light's story, but also its transformation, and now that story slips through the edge of atmosphere, the uppermost tendrils of Earth's sky. Then through all the turbulence and tremble you've already passed, at last it reaches you. That single photon, the one born in fire and forged in time, touches your retina. It activates one rod cell, a tiny living structure shaped to cradle light. That moment of contact creates a signal, an electrical whisper, which travels into your brain. There, amid the quiet rhythms of approaching sleep, the signal blooms into awareness. A star. You have just become the final witness in a journey of thousands of years. And what's more astonishing, this happens constantly. Every second, countless photons from countless stars land on your skin, your eyes, your windows, your dreams. You are bathed in ancient light all the time, whether you notice or not. Even by day, starlight still falls. It's simply drowned by the sun's brilliance. But at night, the ancient stories have the stage to themselves. They gather softly above your roof, patient and luminous. Not all light is visible. Some travels in waves too short or too long for your eye to catch. There is ultraviolet, infrared, X-rays, microwaves, gamma rays, and radio waves. All forms of light, all born from energy, all moving at the same sacred speed. Some of this light you feel as warmth. Some, like radio, can pass through walls. Some, like X-rays, reveal the skeleton of a star or a body. And though your eyes are tuned only to a narrow slice of the spectrum, the universe emits in all wavelengths. You see but a sliver, and still it dazzles. Astronomers use special instruments to see what your eyes cannot. A telescope tuned to radio waves reveals cloudy spirals where stars are born. An X-ray telescope shows violent collisions between galaxies. An infrared telescope sees through dust to glimpse the hearts of stellar nurseries. Each type of light tells a different part of the story. Each reveals truths hidden from the rest. But you do not need to see it all. You are here for the shimmer, the flicker, the glow. You're here for the poetic truth that what touches you tonight left long ago, not knowing where it would end, and now it has found its resting place in your quiet gaze. In this sense, starlight is both intimate and impersonal. It arrives without aim, yet finds meaning in being seen. It becomes real, not just as energy, but as experience. You close your eyes again, and yet the image remains. That star, steady and faint, still travelling, still arriving. You think of all the other eyes it may have touched. Eyes in deserts, on ocean decks, in mountaintop huts, through telescope domes, from planes, through rain-wet windows, or from the floor of a child's bedroom. How many dreams has it lit? How many thoughts has it started? How many stories has it joined without knowing? And suddenly you feel very small, but not in the way that frightens. You feel placed, as though you too are part of the beam, not just the receiver, but the participant. The light did not find you by accident. It found you because you were open to it, because you looked up, because you asked. Out here, where the air has faded and the stars shine steady, light speaks a quiet language, not with words, but with presence. It tells you that everything is older than it seems, that seeing is touching, that wonder travels, and that time is not a straight road, but a river, and the stars its glistening ripples. Still, even here, a mystery hovers. If light is so constant, so old, so honest, then why do we see it shimmer? Why do we feel it dance when it travels so straight and pure? You begin to realize that the shimmer comes not from the stars, not from the void, but from the place you just passed through, the atmosphere, the trembling veil. That's where the dance begins, and perhaps it's time to return there, not to float above it, but to see it more clearly from below, to trace the ripples that bend the path and learn why the stars flicker even as they remain unchanged. You descend gently now, like a leaf falling in slow motion, gliding back through the thinning edge of sky, re-entering the place where air once again becomes breath. Below you the world waits in stillness, hushed rooftops, open windows, warm blankets curled around quiet bodies. Yet what draws your attention is not the view, but the way you see the view. For in this chapter of night, it is not the stars alone that flicker. It is you who transforms their light into meaning. Your eye, humble and miraculous, becomes the final lens, the final interpreter. And what a delicate instrument it is, this small globe behind your brow, this soft living telescope of wonder. Your eye does not simply catch light, it reads it, like braille across the skin of thought. Even now, lying half still in the hush of near sleep, you sense its quiet work. A star twinkles, and your retina hums. That photon, born in a stellar furnace and aged across millennia, finally finds you. It falls through the curved lens at the front of your eye, bends toward the fovea, the most sensitive region of your retina, and stirs a single rod cell into awakening. You do not see this process. You do not need to. It happens as naturally as breath, as invisibly as kindness. A flicker of light becomes a signal, then sensation, then awe. There are over 100 million rod cells in each eye. Slender, sensitive sentinels stand in moonlit silence, waiting only for the faintest whisper of light. Unlike their cousins, the cone cells, which allow you to see colour in daylight, the rods are tuned for darkness. They trade sharp detail for exquisite sensitivity, allowing you to see the faintest star. And when many fire together, a mosaic of impressions forms, dim shapes, gentle edges, the shimmer of a sky full of old flames. And yet, the eye is not passive. It moves. Even now, closed or fluttering beneath the lids, it drifts ever so slightly in tiny motions called microsaccades. These miniature adjustments refresh your vision, keeping the image alive. Without them, even the stars would vanish from perception, fading into the blur of unchanging light. The eye wants variety, contrast, the dance of difference. That is why the stars twinkling holds your gaze. Each flicker, each tiny tremble signals life, change, mystery. But twinkling is not merely seen, it is felt. Your mind, ever poetic, doesn't stop at detection, it layers meaning. One star might shimmer like hope, another like longing. A bright, unsteady one could stir memories of voices long gone, of wishes cast in childhood that never needed to come true to matter. This is not science exactly, but it is no less real. The eye is not a camera, it is a storyteller, and what it receives is only the beginning of what you see. And then there is the shape of the eye, its limitations, its elegance. Your pupil, the dark opening at the centre of your iris, widens in low light, letting more photons in. On a moonless night, it opens fully, reaching its widest aperture, like a telescope's lens pulled to maximum. But the wider it opens, the more it invites distortion. A star's light may arrive bent by atmosphere, but it is your own eye that interprets its shimmer, framing it in the language of experience. Near the edges of your vision, where resolution blurs, the same star may seem to flutter more erratically. Closer to center, steadier. What you perceive is shaped not only by the sky, but by the curved, watery sphere behind your gaze. Think of how you watch the stars. Do you fix your eyes on one point, or let them drift? Do you compare one shimmer to another, noticing how some stars flicker madly, while others glow like whispers on a mirror? These choices shape the story your mind tells. You, in this quiet room, are an astronomer of the personal kind, charting wonder not with instruments, but with wonder itself. And even now, another thought begins to rise in you. Why do some stars dance while others don't? Why do some flash with colour while others seem frozen in place? Part of the answer you've already touched. The air, the angle, the distance. But another part lies in your eye's own perception of light and colour. You see colours not as absolutes, but as relationships. In the subtle shifts of twinkling, your brain sometimes interprets the sudden brightening or dimming of a star as a change in hue. A momentary blink in brightness becomes, in your vision, a flash of blue, then red, then gold. The star isn't changing, but your perception is dancing. This illusion, this colour play, is called chromatic scintillation. It happens because different wavelengths of light bend slightly differently through the atmosphere, and your eye, hungry for distinction, turns that into drama. A single star seen near the horizon might shimmer with an entire rainbow. You see it not because the star asks to be seen that way, but because your vision wants it to be so. It's a conversation. The light speaks, the atmosphere translates, your eye listens, and your mind interprets. Now, imagine you could step outside your body, that you could look back at yourself, lying there under stars, eyes half closed, breath deepening. You would see a person connected by invisible threads to points of fire unimaginably far away. And in the eyes of that person, those threads would flicker, one by one, sparking like tiny lanterns strung through the darkness, not by magic, but by biology, not by myth, but by light. And this light, this dance, this shimmer, it doesn't just enter your eye and vanish. It is stored, translated into chemical signals, shaped into memories. The stars you saw last summer, rising above the pine trees on a warm night, they are still with you, coded into your thoughts, painted across the private sky of memory. You carry their light, not in photons anymore, but in feelings, in the knowledge that you saw something beautiful and felt something that mattered. In this way, the eye does not simply look outward, it reflects. Each star becomes part of your story, and you, in turn, become part of its journey. Because to be seen is to be acknowledged, to be perceived is to be known. The stars, ageless as they are, continue to shine whether you notice or not. But when you do notice, something shifts. A bridge forms. You become a witness, a participant, a single cell among billions that recognize the flicker and called it meaningful. And somewhere in that meaning, another mystery stirs, a subtle one. You've noticed it before, how stars seem to twinkle more when you're still, when your mind is quiet, when your heart is gentle. Is it possible, you wonder, that the stars twinkle not just because of the atmosphere or the limitations of the eye, but because your state of being allows them to? That their shimmer depends not only on science, but on stillness? That question lingers like fog on morning glass. You do not answer it, not yet. You let it float there, beside the faint starlight and the slow rhythm of your breath, because now another idea is stirring, soft as the beginning of a new dream. If your eye receives the shimmer, and your brain makes sense of it, and your soul finds comfort in it, then perhaps next you must ask, what happens when the shimmer disappears? Where do the stars go when the day returns? Why must they wait for the night? You feel the question forming slowly, like sunlight behind closed lids, and you know you're about to follow it. So now the question rises, gentle and persistent. Where do they go? These stars, these shimmering threads of ancient light, so vivid in the deep hush of night. Why do they vanish when the morning comes? You lie still, wrapped in the folds of that thought, and it feels strange to ask something you've always assumed you understood. Of course the stars are hidden by daylight. That's what everyone says. But here, in the softness between sleep and thought, the answer wants to be deeper. Not just hidden, silenced, not gone, drowned. You feel there is more to it. Something delicate and real, like a spiderweb at dawn catching light you never noticed before. Begin again with light. Not starlight this time, but the sun's. It is the nearest star, yet so close it overwhelms all others. You imagine its photons now, brilliant, relentless, streaming toward Earth in such numbers that every square meter of surface is showered with billions of them every second. Unlike the pale trickle from distant stars, the sun's light is a flood. A roaring waterfall, it crashes into the atmosphere, bounces off sidewalks and treetops, reflects from clouds and windows and lakes, until it fills the entire sky with luminous noise. There is no stillness left, no quiet canvas on which a starlight whisper might land. The stars do not disappear. They are simply overheard. It is not so different from trying to listen to a single violin in a room filled with drums. You know the violin is still playing somewhere in the noise, but the sound is swallowed, hidden in volume, in vibration, in the raw force of brightness. The stars lose not their light, but their contrast. They fade into the glow, their voices blurred into the daylight symphony, and your eye, so sensitive to changes in darkness, cannot find them anymore. Their songs are still being sung. You just cannot hear them. You picture the daytime sky now, not as a blank blue ceiling, but as a layer of radiant scattering. The sky is not blue because the sun's light is blue. In fact, sunlight contains all colours. But the air above you, that same trembling air that causes stars to twinkle, scatters shorter wavelengths, blue and violet, more than red. Violet is scattered even more, but your eyes aren't tuned to see it clearly, and so what remains is a wide dome of blue, soft, gentle, all-consuming, and that very dome becomes the curtain that silences the stars. It's an elegant irony, isn't it? The same air that reveals the stars by bending their light, by shimmering it, trembling it, offering it to your heart through flicker and pulse, is the very thing that hides them when flooded by the sun. The atmosphere is not loyal to night or day. It is loyal only to light. It scatters what it receives, and when it receives too much, it buries the subtle with the strong. You remember those rare moments when stars do appear in daylight. A solar eclipse, perhaps, when the moon cloaks the sun and, for a few brief minutes, the velvet sky returns, or at high altitude, on mountaintops or from airplanes, when the atmosphere is thinner and the sun lower. And 2, through telescopes, those focused tunnels that block out the scatter and concentrate only on the precise. The stars remain faithful, even when unseen. Their light is always arriving. Your awareness simply cannot keep up. It's humbling to think that the universe is never absent, only inaccessible. That absence is an illusion created by perspective. You imagine standing under a blue noon sky and lifting your hands toward it, knowing that behind that cerulean veil are countless stars, blinking steadily, unchanged. They do not mourn your inattention. They do not retreat. They wait, patient and constant, until your world quiets enough to hear them again. And yet, this silence is not without beauty. The daytime sky holds its own wonder. There is something sacred in the wash of light, in the way shadows shrink and soften, in how colour blooms with intensity. The sun paints the earth in bold strokes, but even then the stars remain painted in the background, like a hidden layer beneath oil on canvas, invisible but never erased. You begin to see the sky as a cycle of intimacy and distance. Night draws the stars close, inviting you to reach toward them, to feel their shimmer against your chest. Day pulls them back, not to banish them, but to remind you that longing deepens meaning. You must let them go to remember how much they matter. The absence makes them sing louder when they return. There's a lesson here, folded quietly into the fabric of this rhythmic veil. Not everything bright is loud, and not everything loud is meaningful. The most powerful lights, like the stars, are the ones willing to wait for silence. In a world that often clamours and shines and pushes forward with constant urgency, the stars teach you patience. They teach you to listen again only when the drumbeat fades, to seek meaning not just in what is seen, but in what is returned to you when the noise has gone. Perhaps that's why you find yourself drawn to twilight, that threshold space where the sun slips away and the stars begin to reclaim their sky. It is not a moment, but a slow revealing, like ink soaking through parchment, like secrets surfacing in still water. First one star, then another, then more, like breath held and released. You watch the silence grow, and with it, the shimmer. And what of the reverse? The moment when morning arrives, and the stars retreat once more? You felt that too, watching the last glimmer vanish as the sky blushes with early light. It is both goodbye and promise, not the end, only intermission. The light of the stars has not stopped. Your perception has shifted. You can't help but feel that the stars understand this, that their loyalty is not to visibility but to presence. They remain whether or not you see them, just as love remains even when silence fills the space. So next time you step outside beneath a wide blue sky, try this. Pause, lift your eyes, and remember what lies behind it. Even in brightness, even in noise, the quiet ones endure. The flickering light of ancient yesterdays continues to fall upon you, even unseen. And knowing that, truly knowing that, is a kind of seeing all its own. And yet, not all shimmer comes from the stars themselves. Not all silence is caused by daylight. There is a movement within the air, a constant shifting of layers and temperatures and currents that bends the path of even the clearest light. A force that, even at night, makes the stars tremble. You've touched it already, just briefly. You've hovered near it in thought. But now it's time to enter it fully. Because up there, above rooftops and branches, just above your breath, the air itself is dancing. It does not wait for the sun to rise or set. It moves on its own terms, and it's there, in that invisible motion, that the next piece of the story waits. So you rise again, this time not beyond the atmosphere but into it, into the low, familiar soup of Earth's breath, where air is never still, and even silence carries movement. This is the place you live your whole life inside, and yet only now do you feel its motion as texture. The stars are behind you, still shining through the veil, but tonight your attention shifts from their distant flame to the curtain they must pass through before they become your own. You are entering turbulence now, the sky's soft chaos. Turbulence. The word might stir images of shaking airplanes, unsettled clouds, sudden jolts, but in this nocturnal journey it means something gentler, more intricate. Here, turbulence is not violence but rhythm, not disorder but complexity. It is the invisible breath of the planet curling over rooftops, sliding down mountains, pooling in valleys and rising again in uneven waves. It is air warmed by pavement and cooled by lake water. It is chimney heat dancing upward into the star's path. It is every sigh the world exhales at night, and every flicker you see in the sky is a result of these quiet collisions. You drift downward through these layers now, not as a solid object falling, but as awareness suspended in silk. At first, the air feels even and still. Then slowly you begin to notice threads, ribbons of warmth twining through chill, rising like ghosts through chimney flues, flowing sideways where winds shear in narrow bands. This is not air as a single substance, but air as orchestra. Overlapping temperatures, pressures, humidities, all playing different notes at once. The light from the stars, pure and straight, just moments ago is now bent by each of these changes, minutely, again and again in 1,000 places. You watch a single beam of starlight now as it descends, first through calm, then into motion. With each layer it refracts a little more. It slips sideways, it trembles. Each parcel of air it meets bends it by a fraction of a degree. No single bend is enough to see. But together, combined, cumulative, ceaseless, they create the shimmer. They make the star flicker. They make it appear alive. You begin to see the atmosphere not as empty sky, but as a glass sculpture, melted, twisting, never fixed. Imagine a window pane made of liquid, rippling every second with changes you cannot touch. When light passes through it, the stars behind do not move, but they appear to dance. It is this illusion, this shimmering impression caused by a restless lens, that makes you believe the stars are winking. But they are not. They are steady. The dancing happens here, in the air and inside your eye. On some nights the turbulence is soft and low. The stars sparkle gently, almost shyly. Other nights the sky writhes with warmer currents or gusting upper winds, and the stars flare and vanish, flash blue and then red, as if sending signals. You learn to read these changes not just as an observer, but as a listener. Each shimmer is a voice. Each flicker is a phrase. And suddenly you realize the sky is speaking in vibration. There's a name for this trembling, a scientific one, astronomical seeing. It describes how clear or distorted the stars appear, depending on how much the atmosphere shuffles their light before it reaches your eyes. Astronomers measure this seeing in arcseconds, a tiny slice of the sky. A perfect night in a perfect place might offer half an arcsecond of clarity. More often, the sky's dance reduces that to 1, 2, even 3 arcseconds, and the stars pulse, blur, fade. It is as if the sky itself is breathing too heavily to hold the stars still. You hover now above a sleeping town. Below, chimneys release their heat like exhalations. Cars parked on warm asphalt leak warmth upward. Rivers of cool air slide from the forest edge, mingling with rooftops' sighs. Each shift in temperature warps the sky above it, and starlight, ancient and unaware, must pass through this invisible maze. And still it arrives. Bent, yes. Shimmering, yes. But undeterred. This knowledge comforts you. It reminds you that beauty is not always clarity, that distortion is not failure. The light did not ask to flicker, the sky did not plan to tremble, and yet, in their meeting, a kind of poetry is born. The twinkle of the star is not its truth, but it is its arrival, and sometimes arrival is enough. You begin to wonder, could we remove this flicker? Could we still the sky's chaos? And indeed, scientists have tried. They build observatories on mountaintops, where the air is thinner and steadier. They use adaptive optics, flexible mirrors that adjust hundreds of times per second to counteract the distortion. They launch telescopes into orbit, far above all atmosphere, where the stars shine with unbroken steadiness. But even then, the flicker remains in memory, in longing. The sky may be steady by machines, but for you, down here in the comfort of gravity and dreams, the twinkle is part of the language. You close your eyes, and you can still see it. That flickering flame in the dark, that distant glint shifted by air you cannot see, and somehow the knowledge of turbulence makes the night feel more intimate, not less. The stars are not flickering because they are distant. They are flickering because they are close, because the very breath of your own world reaches up to touch their light, and perhaps, just perhaps, within that gentle chaos, there's something else happening too. Something more intricate than turbulence, more specific than shimmer, a phenomenon both ordinary and astonishing. The scientific name floats toward you now, like a soft whisper on rising wind. It sounds like a spell, but it is a real thing, a key, a lens through which to see flickering as more than chance, scintillation, the next doorway, the next breath of light, and already you feel yourself moving toward it. Scintillation. The word settles on you like a feather. Light, precise, unfamiliar yet oddly intimate. It is the name the scientists give to the flickering you've seen since childhood, the shimmer that dances on the edge of your dreams. A word that seems too crisp for something so soft, too clinical for something that stirs wonder. And yet, as you float in this twilight between knowing and simply feeling, the word begins to transform. It becomes a bridge, a way to step closer, not further, to what you see each night. Not a cold explanation, but a clearer window into something already glowing inside you. Scintillation is not the stars doing, it's the skies. It's not the flicker of light failing, but the flutter of light adapting, bending, responding to the restless medium it moves through. In its simplest truth, it is the result of variations in air density, caused by temperature, humidity, motion, warping the straight path of starlight into 1,000 subtle zigzags. The beam that travelled for centuries arrives here and now, only to quiver in the final heartbeat of its journey. That quiver is scintillation. That flicker, that glitter, is not imperfection. It is the last conversation between light and air, between what was born out there and what is lived here. And though the concept is grounded in physics, its feeling is much older than any textbook. Humans have watched the stars sparkle since we first looked up in darkness. Before telescopes, before thermodynamics, before even language, the flickering points above us stirred something: curiosity, reverence, the sense that there was more beyond the hills and trees and firelight. Scintillation was seen not as refraction, but as spirit. As the stars' own laughter, their eyes blinking, their distant pulses in time with our breath. Now, as you hover in thought above the rooftops once more, you begin to see each flicker as the result of shifting lenses layered invisibly between you and the stars. Some of these lenses are high in the sky, thinner, faster, more detached. Others are close, forming in the warmth of city pavement or the cooling tops of trees. As starlight passes through each layer, it bends, it splits slightly, it blurs and sharpens, fades and flashes. The effect is not steady, not predictable, and because stars are so distant, so perfectly point-like in the sky, the changes are magnified. A tiny deflection in the beam translates to a whole new position in your perception. The star shimmers, the star dances, the star scintillates. You can feel the difference now between shimmer and shine, between the light that is and the light that becomes. Scintillation is not the light itself, it is what happens to it when it enters your sky. And while you once believed the flickering was something the star chose to do, you now understand the star remains constant. The flicker is what the earth does to the light. It is our signature stamped onto ancient flame. Think of it this way. If starlight were a whisper from across a canyon, scintillation would be the echo, not the original voice, but a version shaped by the cliffs, the wind, the curve of the land. The message is altered by the space it travels through. It arrives transformed, not distorted, but personalized. The Earth's own touch on something that has travelled so far without a fingerprint. And because of this, no two people ever see the same star in quite the same way. The light they see may be the same light, but the atmosphere it travels through is slightly different for each eye, each moment, each breath. You could look up at the same star at the same time as someone a mile away, and still your versions would not be identical. Their beam might have passed through a warmer patch of air. Yours might have brushed a cooler gust. The result? 2 twinkles, 2 experiences, 2 paths of the same message. There is something deeply human in this idea, that every flicker is shared but unique, that we each see the world slightly differently, not because of who we are, but because of where we stand, what surrounds us, and what filters the light as it reaches us. Scintillation, then, is not just a scientific term, it is a metaphor for perception, for how beauty depends not only on what is offered, but how we receive it. You let that idea sit with you, warm and weightless. The atmosphere is not just a barrier, it is a collaborator, a veil, yes, but also a painter. It takes the light from far away and adds its own artistry. The brushstroke is inconstant, fluid, ever-changing. Some nights it crafts calm portraits. Other nights it draws in trembling lines and flashes of colour. You've seen it, haven't you? The red-blue flicker near the horizon, the sharp glitter just after sunset, the faint, steady pulse of a star near the zenith. All of it, Earth's reply to the universe's endless voice. And just as the atmosphere transforms starlight, so too does your heart. What you see becomes what you feel. A star that flickers can be a reminder, a signal, a thought that doesn't need language. Tonight, you feel it more clearly than ever. The stars do not twinkle alone. They twinkle with you. Their steadiness becomes your breath. Their bending becomes your wonder. Their arrival, broken and whole, is what makes you look up again and again. You've followed light across centuries. You've watched it meet air and tremble, and now you've named the trembling scintillation, not to cage it, but to understand it. To place a hand on its shape and say, I know you, I've seen you, you live in my sky too. But just as you settle into the comfort of this knowing, another thought begins to rise, a curious noticing. Not all lights flicker. Some, bright nearby golden, remain still even on the most turbulent nights. Planets, they glow steadily. Their light seems immune to the tremble. Why? You turn your attention to one now, a soft, unwavering orb low in the sky. No flicker, no blink, only calm, as though the atmosphere treats it differently. You feel the next mystery waiting there, round and luminous, and already your eyes are following it. You turn your gaze now, slowly, deliberately, to that one light in the sky that refuses to dance. It holds its place like a quiet sentinel, glowing not with the flicker of the stars, but with a calm, steady burn. There is no shimmer, no sudden blink of brightness, no flick of colour against the black. Only an even, gentle radiance, as though it's not just a light, but a presence, a planet, and already something in you understands. This stillness means something. It isn't just difference, it's design. Why do the stars twinkle while planets do not? Why, when the whole sky ripples and shimmers like light through water, does this one celestial body seem untouched by the same invisible breath? You let the question widen in your mind, not with urgency, but with quiet curiosity, like ripples in a still pond. The answer will come. 'Tis already rising through the air, carried on the same current that shapes the stars' flicker. You need only listen. Begin again with distance. The stars, for all their brightness, are unimaginably far away. So far, in fact, that even the largest of them appear as infinitesimal points in the night sky. So small, so perfectly distant, that they offer no width to the naked eye. They are pure pinpricks of light, and this is what makes them vulnerable. When starlight meets the ever-shifting layers of Earth's atmosphere, it bends and jostles with every change in temperature or air pressure. Because the stars are point sources, even the smallest deflection causes them to appear to jump, to blink, to twinkle. There's no buffer, no averaging. One push from the wind, one wobble in the air, and the entire star appears to shift. But a planet is something different. A planet is near. Not near in the way that a mountaintop is near, but near in the language of the cosmos. A planet is not a point, it is a disk. To your eye, it is still tiny, still delicate, still appearing as a bright dot. But it is a broader dot. It occupies a measurable space in the sky, enough that when its light meets the same trembling air, the flickers are averaged out across its surface. One part may shimmer slightly, another may dim, but together they cancel each other out. The result is stability, stillness. A planet glows and keeps glowing, regardless of the air's gentle mischief. You picture it now, a wide beam of light coming from the surface of Venus or Mars or Jupiter, each photon following its path through the atmosphere. The turbulence bends one photon to the left, another to the right, one slightly up, another down. But because the planet's disk is broad enough, these deviations blend into a quiet whole. It is like looking at a lantern behind frosted glass. The light doesn't flicker, it radiates. That is why you can tell a planet from a star, even without a telescope. One twinkles, the other glows. This difference, though subtle, becomes profound once you begin to notice it. The stars are distant, ungraspable, mysterious in their trembling. The planets are near, familiar, almost companionable in their calm. You begin to see them as two kinds of light, one that tells you about the vastness of space, the other about the shape of your own system. One is the ancient voice of what lies far beyond. The other is the whisper of neighbours, worlds that orbit the same sun as you do, lit by the same fire, moving in a shared celestial rhythm. There is comfort in that closeness. You think of Jupiter, bold and gold in the late night sky, its moons lined up like beads in orbit, or Mars, tinged with rust and fire, staring back across the darkness with steady heat. These are not unreachable ideas. These are destinations, places we've touched with robotic eyes, names we've spoken not just in myth, but in science. They do not twinkle because they are here. Not on Earth, no, but in our grasp, in our family of planets, in our shared gravitational dance. And so you find yourself watching the planet longer than the stars. Not because it is brighter or louder, but because it doesn't change. There is something reassuring about a light that holds still while all others shift. Something deeply human in needing one thing in the night that does not flutter. In a sky full of questions, the planets offer pause. They do not promise certainty, but they offer steadiness. And sometimes that is enough. Still, you do not love the stars any less. Their twinkling is what calls you to dream. But now you understand more fully. You see how each kind of light speaks differently. The stars distant and trembling, whispering secrets from far-off corners of time. The planets, silent and steady, shining in place like sentinels. One shows you wonder, the other shows you where you are. You look again. A star blinks beside the steady glow of Saturn. They're both light, both messages from beyond your world, but shaped by distance, shaped by air, shaped by the eyes that see them. You smile because the difference no longer separates them in your heart. It connects them. They are part of the same story now, yours. And that story is not done. There is more still, more than what the eye alone can see. What happens when you try to peer deeper? What happens when you build a lens of metal and glass and lift it toward the stars? Do you escape the twinkle? Or does the shimmer follow you, changing shape but never truly vanishing? You feel it pulling now, that curiosity, that need to climb further, to focus the sky, to bring distant lights closer. The telescope waits. The next step in your seeing. The next chapter in your dreaming. So now, drawn by that hunger to see more clearly, you reach for the oldest tool of skybound curiosity, the telescope. It doesn't matter whether you imagine it mounted on a tripod in a quiet backyard or orbiting silently above Earth's atmosphere, wrapped in the stillness of space. What matters is what it does. It narrows your gaze, concentrates the chaos, and peels back the layers of blur to show the night in sharper detail. You cradle the thought of it now, like holding a lens to your own longing. The stars are still there, but through this tube of glass and silence, they inch closer. They become stories no longer just sensed, but seen. But what does a telescope really do? You've heard it described in numbers, magnification, aperture, field of view. But tonight, in this gentle space between waking and sleep, you feel its deeper purpose. A telescope is not just a tool of precision. It is a funnel for wonder, a narrowing of the world's distractions so that one speck of light among the millions can be brought forward and asked to speak. You're not chasing size or distance, not really. You're chasing clarity, the kind that lets you hear a single note in a crowded room and follow it all the way to its source. The first thing you notice when looking through one is how the stars sharpen. They're still points, still ancient, still quiet, but they burn cleaner, crisper. The tremble of the naked eye fades slightly. The twinkle softens. You might think the telescope eliminates the atmosphere's effect, but it does not. Not entirely. You're still looking through the same veil of moving air. The starlight still shifts as it descends. But because the telescope gathers more light, concentrates it, and directs it precisely into your eye, the flickering seems less random, less scattered. You see the pattern in the dance, and yet the flicker remains, especially if you are observing from sea level, from your rooftop, from the edge of a field. The telescope, for all its power, cannot banish the shimmer. Instead, it reveals how the shimmer works. A star observed at high magnification might not just twinkle, it might seem to flutter at the edges, a disk of light wobbling in and out of focus as if breathing. Sometimes it pulses, sometimes it splits, momentarily into hints of colour, especially if the atmosphere is turbulent. You begin to realise the telescope doesn't remove the Earth's influence, it lets you see it in action. On some nights the air steadies, the shimmer hushes. Astronomers call this good seeing, a night when the stars stay still, when the planets snap into clarity, their rings and bands revealed like secrets finally whispered aloud. On those nights, the telescope becomes not just a window, but a mirror, perfectly reflecting the heavens. You wait for those nights, you watch the weather. You learn to feel the air not just as wind, but as clarity. Your eye grows patient, attuned. The telescope teaches you this. And there's another secret the telescope offers, one so subtle it might slip past if not held gently. It is this: the deeper you look, the more time stretches. Through the telescope you're not just seeing farther, you're seeing earlier. Galaxies appear not as they are now, but as they were when their light began travelling. You peer into the past, not metaphorically, but literally. The starlight from Andromeda began its journey over 2 million years ago. You see it not as a distant place, but as a memory arriving late. Each focus of the lens is a resurrection. Still, no matter how far the telescope reaches, the atmosphere remains the final filter. That's why, eventually, we lift our eyes beyond it, not just through glass, but into orbit. The space telescope becomes the truest extension of our vision. No atmosphere, no tremble, no shimmer. Only starlight as it was meant to be seen. Pure, unwavering, ancient. The Hubble Space Telescope and others like it float above the blur, catching light before Earth can fold it. There, the stars do not twinkle. They shine, like jewels on a still ocean, reflecting the full truth of the light that found them. But somehow, even as you imagine that pristine view from above, you find yourself returning to the shimmer, to the subtle imperfection. The stars may be sharper in space, but here on Earth, their flicker feels alive. The telescope, powerful as it is, becomes a reminder. You're looking not only into the sky, but through it. Your view is shaped not just by lenses, but by wind, by warmth, by the breath of your planet. And even in the quiet, that breath is always moving. You pull your focus back now, your hands releasing the imagined instrument, your mind letting the field of stars grow wide again. You're no longer chasing single pinpricks, you're feeling the entire dome. The telescope has served its purpose for tonight. It has taught you that clarity is not always stillness, That precision does not always mean peace, that even the sharpest vision passes through layers of soft chaos before it becomes knowing. And so, you breathe deeply, gently, letting your eyes blur again, letting the stars resume their shimmering rhythm. You know more now. You understand their twinkle not just as magic, but as physics, not just as poetry, but as pattern. And still, they remain beautiful. Still, you want to know more, because in some places the stars barely flicker at all. In others, they vanish entirely, not because of weather, not because of air, but because of light. Not from the stars, but from us. You feel it creeping in now, the glow of cities, the scatter of man-made brilliance that washes the stars away, not with movement, but with absence. You turn your head toward that idea, and already it glows dimly in your thoughts. A different kind of silence, a different kind of veil. You're ready to follow it. You turn slowly now, not with your body, but with your quiet noticing, to the glow beneath your world, not starlight but earthlight, not celestial shimmer, but the persistent, restless shine of human places, cities, streets, signs, highways, towers lit at every level, windows glowing like digital constellations. You've seen it before, perhaps too often to even notice anymore. That soft dome of orange or white hanging above towns and cities, even on moonless nights, even where no clouds drift, is not the moon, it's not the stars, it's something else entirely. It's us. And now you begin to feel it as weight. Not heavy in a fearful way, but in the way too much whisper becomes a roar. The stars above have always waited, always reached downward with their ancient light. But in cities, that light must compete with millions of other lights, all much younger, all much closer, and all wildly, thoughtlessly bright. Every street lamp, every parking lot floodlight, every glowing billboard and lit-up storefront adds to the sky's drowning. You don't see fewer stars in the city because they're absent. You see fewer stars because we've filled the sky with too much of our own reflection. This is light pollution, though the phrase feels almost too blunt for something so strangely beautiful. Because there is a beauty to it, especially when viewed from above. Astronauts speak of city lights like glowing embroidery across continents, threads of gold and pearl stretching across countries, pulsing like lifelines. But from down here, on the ground, that same beauty comes at a cost. The more we light the earth, the less we see of the sky. The problem is not the light itself, it's its direction, upward, outward, unshielded. Light spilling not where it's needed, but where it only interrupts. It scatters in the atmosphere, just like sunlight does at dawn. But instead of bathing the sky in soft blue, it floods it with haze. It reflects off molecules, dust, even tiny droplets of water, filling the night with a luminous fog that overpowers the gentle starlight trying to reach you. Where once your eyes would adjust to darkness and pull in thousands of stars, now they adjust to brightness and pull in only a few. You remember this, don't you? The first time you saw a truly dark sky, far from cities. Maybe as a child, maybe only once, how the stars startled you, not just by their number, but by their presence, as if they had been waiting all this time just outside your awareness. They weren't new, they were simply finally visible. And you wonder now, how many people live their whole lives without seeing that sky? How many grow up thinking stars are rare, distant, irrelevant, when in truth they're merely hidden, veiled not by nature, but by our own brightness. There is something tender in this realization, a quiet ache, because light is not evil. It gives safety, warmth, direction. We are creatures of flame and bulb and signal. But somewhere along the line we forgot how to balance brightness with need. We filled our nights so full of our own glow that we forgot how to sit in the dark. And in doing so, we lost touch with one of the most ancient human rituals, looking up. You lie here now, imagining a city sky, pale orange maybe, a few brave stars peeking through near the zenith, maybe a planet or two, the moon if it's strong, and the rest, washed away. You imagine the light falling upward from the streets, as though we were trying to outshine the stars to erase them with our own reflections. We don't mean to. It happens slowly, incrementally, one bulb at a time. But the effect is clear. The sky becomes shallow, the stars recede. Yet, here is the quiet joy. It can be undone, or rather, unmasked. Shielded lights, lower color temperatures, motion-activated lamps, thoughtful design. Cities across the world have begun to reclaim their night skies, not by turning off the lights entirely, but by pointing them downward, toward the ground where they belong. In those places the stars begin to return. The shimmer becomes visible again. The city sky regains its depth, and even if you cannot see them, the stars are still there. That thought, simple as it is, brings you peace. You lie beneath their light every night, whether you see it or not. It touches your roof, your skin, your breath. Even in cities, even now, the universe does not withdraw its light simply because we are not looking. It continues, patiently. Perhaps the stars are not waiting to be seen, but simply waiting for us to remember how to see. And still, for those who need the full sky, who hunger for it with a quiet thirst, there are places. Dark sky reserves, remote deserts, high mountain tops, islands where artificial light is dimmed, shielded, softened. There, the stars return in full voice. Thousands, tens of thousands, even the gentle river of the Milky Way flowing from one horizon to the other. And those who see it, really see it, speak of it not as spectacle, but as restoration, as coming home to something primal and long forgotten. You feel that now, not in your eyes, but in your bones. The sense that the sky's not just decoration, but belonging. That its depth mirrors your own. That the more we look outward, the more we understand inward. The shimmer, the silence, the steadiness. All of it reflects some part of you. And when it disappears beneath city glow, a part of you disappears too. And so tonight, you close your eyes and imagine the stars behind the veil. You know they're still there, still flickering, still arriving, one photon at a time, even if lost in the blur of streetlight. You whisper a kind of promise, not to banish all light, but to honor darkness where it belongs, to find balance, to remember that the sky is not gone, only quieted. But what if there were no veil? What if you could lift yourself above the shimmer, the scatter, the pollution of light and air entirely? What would the stars look like then, in their untouched brilliance? Not on a mountain, not on a rooftop, but beyond, above the atmosphere itself. The thought takes root in you. A telescope with no air between its mirror and the stars, a seeing untouched by Earth's trembling breath. And already you are climbing toward it. You rise now beyond the veil, leaving behind the soft, trembling breath of Earth's atmosphere. Up here, the air thins until it disappears altogether. The sky stretches out before you in absolute blackness, deeper than any night you've ever known. No glow of city lights, no scattering of moisture or dust, no trembling currents bending starlight before it reaches you. Here, the stars no longer twinkle, they shine, steady, precise, radiant, true to their ancient fire. You feel the quiet power of that stillness, like stepping into a cathedral built not of stone, but of light itself. This is the realm of the space telescope, your unblinking eye above the clouds and chaos. Imagine a great mirror, polished to perfect gleam, spinning in silence around the Earth, catching photons that have journeyed millions, even billions, of years. Unhindered by turbulence, unscattered by atmosphere, this telescope records the universe's pure voice. It listens as no eye on the ground can. It sees the stars as they truly are, points of steady light, glowing galaxies, swirling nebulae in brilliant colour. You imagine the Hubble orbiting far above your head, its instruments locked on some distant corner of space, revealing secrets hidden from earth-bound gaze. Without the atmospheric veil, the light comes straight through, untwisted and unbroken. There is no scintillation here, no flicker or blink, only clarity. The stars no longer dance in your vision. They hold their place like jewels frozen in time. This unshaken view lets astronomers measure the stars' true size, colour, and brightness with exquisite precision. It allows them to discover distant planets, trace the birth of stars, and watch galaxies collide in slow cosmic dances. Here, the night sky is an open book, its letters clear and waiting. Yet, as perfect as this stillness seems, it also feels distant, removed from the human rhythm you know so well. The stars lose some of their poetry when their twinkle vanishes, when their flicker is smoothed away by technology. You realize that some part of you craves not just the cold light of facts, but the warm glow of wonder, the unpredictable shimmer that invites questions, the gentle tremble that stirs the soul. The space telescope may see the stars clearly, but it cannot make them dance. It cannot remind you of Earth's breath or your own. And so, even as you imagine this perfect silent gaze, you long to return to the gentle chaos of atmosphere, to the flickering light that carries both science and story. The stars that twinkle are not less real than the stars that shine steady. They're different facets of the same gem, one shaped by distance, one by closeness, one by unyielding truth, one by tender imperfection. You drift back down now, toward the breathing world below, carrying with you the memory of that crystal clarity. You understand that to see the stars is not simply to observe them, but to meet them in their many voices, the quiet ones, the steady ones, the flickering ones, all speaking across space and time to the single heart that listens. But before your mind can rest, a new realization stirs. The stars you see are not all alike. Their twinkles differ, their colors vary, their stories diverge. Some pulse gently on their own, others blaze and fade. Some are old, cold embers, others are young, hot fires. The night is alive with variation, and now you feel the pull to explore that diversity, to hear what each flicker says, to understand what color whispers. And as you settle deeper into this thought, the sky above your sleeping world begins to speak again, not just with light, but with the secret language of color and pulse and time. The night sky, vast and velvet dark, is not a silent uniform tapestry, but a living mosaic, each star a voice with its own pitch, rhythm and story. You feel this truth gently unfolding as you rest beneath the dome of twinkling lights. Some stars shimmer softly, as if breathing in and out with the quiet pulse of the universe. Others flare with sudden intensity, like flickers of laughter or sighs released after long-held secrets. The variations in their flicker are not random. They are windows into the stars' own nature and the cosmic neighborhood they inhabit. Begin with the giants, immense stars bloated with energy, burning at a slower, more deliberate tempo. Their twinkling tends to be gentle, a slow undulation that soothes more than startles. You imagine these giants as the elders of the stellar family, their flicker a heartbeat steady and measured, a soft glow that carries wisdom from the depths of time. These stars often pulse on their own, subtly changing brightness in cycles that can stretch over days or weeks. The twinkle you see is both their own light, playing with Earth's atmosphere, and the echo of internal rhythms, nuclear fires flickering beneath their glowing surfaces. Then there are the smaller, hotter stars, the restless youth. Their light dances more wildly, sparkling with sharper bursts of colour and brightness. The blue-white flames seem to flash faster, as if impatient to tell you something urgent. Their flicker carries the story of fierce heat and rapid fusion, a blaze that can shift with sudden flares or stellar winds. Sometimes you feel as though these stars are teasing you, beckoning with quick silver light that vanishes before you fully grasp it. But stars are not solitary actors. They live among companions and clusters, forming intricate cosmic neighborhoods. Some flicker because of their surroundings, companions tugging gently at their edges, swirling clouds of gas and dust that obscure and reveal, or unseen planets crossing their faces in silent rhythmic shadows. These interactions add layers to their twinkle, making it a complex performance choreographed by gravity and light. You think of these stars as dancers in a crowded ballroom, their movements shaped by the proximity of others, their light echoing the subtle exchanges of cosmic relationships. You notice too that the atmosphere's influence on twinkle varies with colour and wavelength. Blue light bends more easily than red, so hotter, bluer stars often shimmer with more vivid colour shifts, flashing blue, then red, then green in rapid succession. Cooler, redder stars twinkle with a softer palette, their flicker more subdued but no less poetic. Each colour carries meaning, a temperature signature burned into the very light that has travelled so far to reach you. You imagine the sky as a palette of living paint, with stars casting their hues across the dark canvas, flickering like impressionist brushstrokes. This realization deepens your connection to the night. The twinkle is not a flaw in the star's light, nor a mere trick of your eye, but a chorus of variations, each star's flicker a distinct note in the universal song. The dance of light and air, of distance and temperature, becomes a language of its own. You listen, feeling the harmony between science and wonder, between measurement and mystery. As you breathe slowly beneath the sky, your mind drifts to the stories behind these flickers, stars that pulse with predictable rhythm, like distant heartbeats marking time, stars that flare unpredictably like moments of passion or pain, stars that hide behind veils of dust, their light filtered and softened, whispering secrets in shadows. And you understand that the night sky is a living library, every twinkle a story waiting to be read by patient eyes. Your own eyes begin to close gently now, but before sleep carries you away, a final thought lingers. The colours of the stars, the subtle differences in their flicker are not just science, they are poetry. Each shimmer is a line, each pulse a stanza, and the sky itself an endless poem written in light. Yet even as your mind softens into dreams, the night beckons with one more question, one more invitation to look deeper and listen closer. For colour and flicker are only the beginning. What if the stars have stories to tell not only in light, but in the patterns of their dance? You feel the gentle pull to follow that thread, to discover what secrets the sky's varied shimmer holds next. As you slip deeper into the embrace of night, your mind lingers on the flickering dance above. It is no random jitter, no chaotic stutter without rhythm. Instead, you begin to notice, perhaps for the first time, that the twinkle itself carries patterns, subtle variations that seem to pulse with intention. The stars are not simply blinking, they're dancing. Their light waltzes through your vision, sometimes slow and graceful, sometimes quick and joyous, sometimes hesitant and mysterious. You feel a deep invitation to join that dance, to learn its steps, to find the music in the shimmer. This dance arises from many forces, both celestial and earthly. The first partner is the atmosphere itself, swirling in layers of temperature and pressure. These layers move in waves, eddies and currents, bending light unevenly as it passes through. The twinkle is a direct consequence of this turbulent flow, a visual ripple in the air. Yet, beyond this environmental cause lies a more intrinsic rhythm. The stars themselves often pulse with internal beats. Some stars are known as variable stars, their brightness waxing and waning with regular cycles that can span hours, days, or years. These changes are caused by pulsations in their outer layers or interactions with companions, turning their light into a living metronome. You imagine a star, vast and burning, expanding and contracting like a giant heart, its surface rippling with the cosmic breath. This internal rhythm overlays the atmospheric shimmer, creating a layered dance visible even from your quiet place on Earth. The star's light becomes a duet, a conversation between distant nuclear fire and local earthly breath. It flickers in complexity, inviting you to listen not just with your eyes, but with your intuition. Another partner in the dance is the binary star system, where two stars orbit each other in a timeless embrace. As they circle, one star may eclipse the other, causing the combined light to brighten and dim in a predictable pattern. To the observer, this creates a delicate choreography of light and shadow, a celestial pas de deux etched across the night. You find poetry in this interplay. The story of two bodies bound by gravity, their light weaving in and out like intertwined fingers. Even solitary stars can have complex rhythms. Some are surrounded by clouds of dust and gas that shift slowly, changing the amount of light that escapes to the void. Others eject stellar winds or flare suddenly, adding bursts of brilliance to their otherwise steady glow. The twinkle you perceive is a mosaic of these cosmic motions, each star a storyteller, speaking through light's subtle language. You consider how these patterns ripple through the night sky like a secret code. Ancient civilizations watched these dances and wove them into myths, songs, and calendars. The flicker of a star might have signaled the coming of a season, the promise of rain, or the presence of a deity. Tonight, you feel connected to that tradition, part of a lineage of watchers who find meaning in the shimmer. And yet, the dance is not just about the stars. Your own eyes, the final receivers, add their rhythm. Microsaccades, tiny involuntary eye movements, keep the image from fading, refreshing the star's light in a flicker of their own. Your brain processes the shifts, combining light and shadow into a seamless experience. In this way, the dance of the stars is a shared creation between the universe and your perception. As you breathe slowly beneath the glittering dome, you sense the dance expanding beyond sight, into feeling, memory, and dream. Each flicker becomes a step, each pulse a phrase in the silent music of the cosmos. You're both observer and participant, bound in a quiet rhythm as old as light itself. The night stretches on, deep and endless. The stars continue their dance, unceasing and patient. And in your heart, a question lingers, soft as a whisper. What if the dance is more than light and air? What if it carries messages not yet understood? Your eyelids grow heavy, but before sleep claims you fully, you feel the pull to follow that question deeper, into the hidden harmonies of the universe, and into the mysteries waiting just beyond the shimmer. As you drift deeper into the quiet tapestry of night, you begin to sense that the twinkle of stars is more than mere flicker or dance. It is a language, a series of messages encoded in the flickering light that has travelled so far, so patiently, just to reach your eyes. This light is not silent, it whispers to you, in hues and pulses and rhythms, secrets about the stars themselves, about their lives, their histories, and their inevitable fates. You're not just a passive witness. You're the recipient of an ancient cosmic conversation, a dialogue spanning the vastness of space and time. Light from a star carries within it the story of the star's temperature, its size, its age, and even its chemical composition. Different elements absorb and emit light at very specific wavelengths, producing the star's unique spectrum, a fingerprint made of colours, invisible to the naked eye but decipherable by careful instruments. You imagine yourself holding this spectrum in your hands, a delicate scroll revealing the star's innermost nature. You can almost feel the weight of those photons, each a messenger bearing news from the depth of stellar furnaces, forged in fusion's relentless fire. The colour of a star tells a tale of temperature. Cool stars glow softly in deep reds and oranges, their flicker warm and steady like embers. Hotter stars blaze fiercely in blues and whites, their twinkle sharp and electric. As you listen to this chromatic symphony, you realize that the stars are not all the same, but rather a family of diverse voices, each singing a unique song. Some are young and bright, bursting with energy. Others are old and fading, their light softened by time and distance. Beyond colour, the brightness and flicker of a star reveal its size and activity. Giant stars pulse with expanding and contracting atmospheres, while smaller stars might erupt suddenly in flares, moments of dramatic increase in brightness that ripple through their light. These stellar moods are encoded in the subtle variations you see as twinkle, but also in more precise measurements taken by astronomers who listen closely to the light's changing intensity. You feel the enormity of this communication, the idea that the stars speak not just in light, but in light's changes, its whispers and shouts, its hidden codes. It is as if the universe has written its autobiography in photons, scattering its pages across the cosmos for those who know how to read. And here you are, part of the readership, a quiet student learning to interpret the signs. The twinkle itself, the scintillation caused by Earth's atmosphere, adds another layer to this conversation. It is a reminder that messages must pass through filters, that meaning is often altered by the medium. Yet even the flicker is a kind of communication, a dance of presence and change that invites you to wonder, to question, to imagine. The sky's shimmering veil is both obstacle and invitation, a soft distortion that calls you into deeper attention. You sense now that this dialogue extends beyond stars themselves. Their light carries hints of unseen companions, planets orbiting silently, shadows crossing their faces in celestial choreography. It holds clues to the vast structures of galaxies, to the dark matter and energy shaping the cosmos in ways still beyond full understanding. The universe is telling a story not only of light and matter, but of mystery and discovery. In this moment, beneath the blanket of night, you feel part of that story. The light that reaches you is ancient, yet it arrives as something immediate, an intimate touch connecting you to distant fires and vast emptiness. You realize that the messages in the star's light are not just scientific data, but profound reminders of connection, continuity, and curiosity. As your breath slows and your body relaxes, the sky's whispers fold into your dreams. And in that gentle merging of waking and sleep, you sense a question waiting to be asked. A question about what it means not only to receive light, but to send it, to participate in the cosmic conversation. And just as you drift fully into rest, you feel the pull of that question guiding you forward toward the next unfolding of this celestial story. As you awaken from the delicate embrace of dreams, the question lingers like a gentle echo. What does it mean not only to receive the star's light, but to send your own? The universe is not a one-way street. It is a conversation, a dance of give and take, where light travels both ways, whispering across unimaginable distances and bridging the vast gulf between you and the cosmos. The photons you receive are gifts, yes, but your own being, your own energy, participates in this endless exchange. You're not just a passive observer, you're a star in the great network of light. This idea unfolds slowly, like dawn stretching across a quiet sky. Your body, glowing with warmth and breath, emits light too, though faint, imperceptible to the naked eye. Every heartbeat, every movement of your cells, every flicker of your nervous system sends out signals in the electromagnetic spectrum. You are, in your own way, luminous. And when you speak, when you move, when you think, your energy reaches out, not with photons across space, but with waves and fields, with presence and intention. You begin to imagine yourself as part of a vast web, where stars and planets, cells and thoughts, photons and feelings all interweave in a grand cosmic pattern. Light is the language, yes, but it is also the medium, the thread that connects one node to another, one heart to the next. These stars send their light, and you receive it. You send your light, and the universe responds in kind. This is the great cosmic conversation, eternal and intimate. You recall the human tradition of sending messages by light, fires kindled on mountaintops, lanterns released into the night sky, radio waves beamed into space with hope and wonder. Our technology has extended our voice far beyond the boundaries of Earth, carrying our light, our stories, into the depths of space. You realize that the twinkle you see in the stars is not just a past echo, but an invitation to join, to send, to speak, to participate in the shared light. This connection feels both humbling and empowering. You're a small point in an immense expanse, yet your light contributes to the vast network. Every thought, every breath, every smile sends ripples of energy into the cosmos, joining the endless dance. You are a participant in the flow, not separate from it. The flickering stars above mirror the flicker within. the constant interplay of receiving and sending, listening and speaking. And as you settle deeper into this awareness, you sense a final, tender truth. The stars twinkle not only because of atmosphere or distance, but because the universe itself is alive with interaction. This shimmer is a sign of connection, a delicate, beautiful tremble that reminds you that light is never still, never solitary. It is always moving, always changing, always reaching out. Your eyes close softly now, your breath slowing to the rhythm of the cosmos. The twinkle becomes a lullaby, a whisper of belonging, a promise of continuity. And in this quiet moment, you understand that to watch the stars is to be part of a story without end, a conversation of light and shadow, presence and absence, wonder and peace. And as your mind drifts towards sleep, a gentle question remains, soft and open, as a promise for the next night's dreaming. What light will you send back into the vastness? You lie beneath the vast expanse once more, breathing in the deep quiet that only night can offer. It is stillness that is not empty, but full of possibilities, full of gentle mysteries waiting patiently in the dark. The twinkling stars above have softened into a steady glow, as if the universe itself is settling beside you, inviting you to rest in its calm. In this tender pause between wakefulness and sleep, you begin to feel the true power of night, not as a void or a silence, but as a presence, a sanctuary where light and shadow, thought and feeling meet in perfect balance. The night holds a different kind of energy, one that does not push or pull, but simply is. It allows you to slow your breath, soften your gaze, and open your heart to the unfolding mystery. You realize that this quiet power is not only found in the stars or the sky, but within yourself, in the spaces between your thoughts, in the gentle rhythm of your pulse, in the soft glow of awareness that does not demand but receives. Night invites you to be still, to witness without needing to understand, to rest in wonder without the weight of questions. In this stillness, the twinkle of stars becomes a meditation, a slow dance of light and shadow that mirrors your own inner rhythms. Each flicker reminds you that beauty often arises from imperfection, from the subtle interplay of forces unseen. The stars do not shine perfectly because they must navigate the delicate turbulence of the atmosphere, just as you do not move through life without challenge or change. Their shimmer is a testament to resilience, to presence, to the courage to glow despite uncertainty. You sense now that the night is a teacher offering lessons in patience and openness. It encourages you to listen deeply, not just to the cosmos, but to your own breath, your own heartbeat, the quiet voice within that knows without words. The twinkle is its language, a gentle invitation to embrace the unknown, to find peace in the ebb and flow of light and darkness, certainty and mystery. As you settle further into this embrace, your mind drifts like a leaf on a still pond. The stars above become not just points of light, but companions in a shared journey, a vast, unfolding story that connects you to everything that ever was and will be. You are part of this story, a thread woven into the shimmering fabric of night. And just as sleep begins to gather you in its soft arms, a final thought lingers, a gentle promise whispered by the stars themselves. No matter how far their light has travelled, the stars will always find a way to reach you, and so will your own light, in turn, find its place among them. With that, you drift fully into the quiet power of night, carrying the shimmer of the cosmos within you, ready to dream among the stars. As the night breathes its final sigh before dawn, you linger in the fragile moment where darkness begins to yield to light. The stars, once so bold in their dance, now soften into faint glimmers, like whispers fading into silence. You feel this transition deeply, not as an ending, but as a gentle passage, a bridge between worlds, between the mystery of night and the promise of day. In this quiet breath before the sun returns, the secrets of the stars rest lightly on your skin, settling into your mind like a delicate dusting of cosmic snow. You hold the night's secret close, not a burden, but a gift. It is the knowledge that every flicker, every shimmer is a pulse of connection, a message carried across time and space just for you. That light, with its twists and trembles, is both ancient and immediate. It is a conversation never truly ending, only changing form as the world turns. And now, as the first pale fingers of dawn stretch across the horizon, you understand that the twinkle will return. It will come again with the dark, with the stillness, with the readiness to see beyond the obvious. Your breath deepens, slow and rhythmic, in harmony with the fading night. You feel the subtle warmth of the coming day, the soft promise of light not yet full but already stirring. And as you prepare to leave the stars behind for now, you carry with you the quiet power of their presence, the shimmering reminder that light and shadow coexist in delicate balance, that wonder lives in the spaces between certainty and doubt, and that every ending folds gently into a new beginning. With this, your eyes close fully, your body relaxes completely, and you surrender to the gentle pull of sleep, cradled by the endless sky, warmed by the infinite light, and carried softly toward the dawn. And in the deepest silence before dreams take you, one last thought lingers. The stars may fade with the coming sun, but their light is never lost. It waits patiently, quietly, to shine again. As your mind drifts toward the tender embrace of sleep, the first light of dawn begins its subtle work beyond your window. It does not burst forth all at once, but seeps softly, like ink spreading slowly across a page, tinting the sky in hues of pink, lavender, and gold. The world exhales in this quiet moment, suspended between the night's lingering secrets and the day's awakening promise. You feel this transition not as loss, but as an unfolding, a gentle turning of the cosmic page that holds all stories, all light, all dreams. The stars, your silent companions through the long hours, have receded now, their shimmer folded back into the fabric of the universe. But their light remains, scattered in the air, reflected in dew, and held within your own breath. The night's magic is not gone, it has merely retreated to wait, patient and sure for the next evening's call. This is the eternal promise of the cosmos, that no matter how bright the day becomes, the stars will return. Their twinkle will once again invite your gaze, their ancient stories will resume their telling, and the dance of light and shadow will begin anew. You breathe deeply, savouring the calm power of this promise. The night has taught you to see beyond mere brightness, to find wonder in the flicker, to listen to the quiet language of light. It has invited you to be both witness and participant in a cosmic conversation that stretches across time and space, connecting your heart to the fires of distant suns. And now, as dawn gently brushes away the darkness, you carry this connection with you, a secret flame to warm your waking hours. The sky, shifting from dark velvet to soft morning glow, becomes a canvas of infinite possibility. And within you, the star's light continues to shimmer, steady, unbroken, waiting patiently for the night to return. With this, your thoughts grow quiet, your body sinks deeper into rest, and you surrender fully to sleep, cradled by the endless sky, warmed by the infinite light, and held softly by the promise of night's gentle return.